After the Combine, I think it's fair to say that the clear-cut number one wide receiver on most people's boards is DK Metcalf. The man who has become a meme now has taken over, and it's not hard to understand why. DK, at his massive size, ran a 4.31 40-yard dash time at the Combine. It was impressive. I certainly admit that. However, DK is not the number one wide receiver on my board this year. That honor belongs to Hakeem Butler, and today I'm going to tell you why. Now, before we go any further, I just want to say that I don't think that necessarily DK Metcalf will be a bust. He just has some concerns about him that make him not the number one on my board as compared to Hakeem Butler. Now, DK impressed everybody, unsurprisingly, with his 4.3 40. At his size, that's amazing. His vertical jump of over 40 inches, his long broad jump, his 27 reps on the bench, all super impressive. However, his other statistics at the Combine are a little bit less so. He was great at everything at the Combine as long as he wasn't asked to change directions. His 3-cone and 20-yard shuttle were among the worst of the wide receivers and even slower than Tom Brady at the 2000 Combine. That number gets thrown around a lot, I'm aware, but it's still worth noting that Tom Brady wasn't exactly a physical specimen at that Combine, and to get beat by him at that is not ideal. Another thing about DK is that the production is not really there. And I don't mean that he didn't necessarily produce, it's just that there's not enough tape on him. In his college career, he put up 67 receptions. Keep that number in mind as we go later through this video. Because he only played 7 games last season, because he suffered an injury against Arkansas to his neck and missed the rest of the season. Now, I'm not going to take that with too much more than a grain of salt, simply because look at Leighton Vander Esch. He had a neck injury, he came back from it, everything seems alright. He clearly had a good season with the Cowboys. So if DK is fine, and he seems fine, then I'm not going to worry about it unless something happens again. But injury concerns are something that you really don't have with Butler, and we'll get to that in a minute as well. Overall, I still think DK is a good prospect, and one that a lot of teams would be lucky to have. However, I just don't think that he's the clear-cut number one because of some of the things that we have from Hakeem Butler. But let's move on to Hakeem right now. Before we get into Hakeem Butler's game, I would like to get into his story a little bit. Butler lost his mother at an early age to cancer, and then moved into Texas with his cousins, who just so happened to be Andrew and Aaron Harrison, the Harrison twins, who went to Kentucky, and were part of a national championship team. This is a fact that I've really not heard anybody mention, and I'm kind of surprised because that's very interesting. They're not there right now, but both of the Harrison twins played in the NBA at some point or another, and that's kind of surprisingly cool. I mean, you had 3 athletes who will be playing a snap, or a minute, I suppose, at the highest level of their sport, living in the same house for an amount of time. That's kind of cool, I think, to mention. It's a shame, a true shame, how Hakeem ended up there, but it is something that is very interesting to me, that I'm surprised that I haven't heard anybody else mention. Hakeem Butler's measurables are the type of receiver you would design in Madden. 6'5", 227 pounds, 4.48 speed, 18 bench reps, 36-inch vertical jump. Now, unlike DK, he didn't run the 3-cone or the 20-yard shuttle, which is something that I kind of understand after how DK did, but it is interesting to not know how good he is on the end-line cuts. I'm assuming his handler probably told him not to do it considering how big he is, and considering what happened to DK, it was probably the right move. As far as production, Butler had an amazing 2018. 60 catches, 1,318 yards, and 9 touchdowns. These numbers are most impressive when compared to DK simply because this year Butler had 60 catches. In his career, DK has 67. I hate to boo-hoo him, but there's just not enough tape there for me personally to say he's the clear-cut ahead. With Butler's measurables mixed with the higher production rates, it makes more sense to me that he is the number one guy. I don't know. I see it more that way. Obviously others don't. Butler's from a smaller school, I feel like that may have something to do with it. But most importantly for me for Butler is how strong he finished. In the team's bowl game, he had 9 catches for 192 yards. Those are video game-like numbers, and nobody seems to be talking about that either. This doesn't even mention the fact that Butler has been noted to be working out with Calvin Johnson, another 6'5 receiver, arguably one of the top 5 of all time, in the offseason. Now I get it. Hakeem Butler does not look like this. However, we're not looking for guys that look like this at this position, we're looking for guys that can play wide receiver. And I think DK can. Do not take this whole video as a bash of DK Metcalf. I think he has the potential to be great. But in addition to what I said, here's what scares me most. 71% of his catches and yards have come on the go route and the hitch route. That's not a very deep route tree. that can be developed. Randy Moss has said he didn't think he could run any route but the go in his rookie season. That turned into 17 touchdowns and arguably one of the 3 best careers in NFL history. So I think DK can improve. I just think he needs a lot of seasoning, and if he goes to the wrong place, it will hurt him. Butler, to me, is the guy that you could build a franchise around. He reminds me a lot of Julio Jones, measurable-wise. Well, he is a bit slower. Julio had one of the craziest 40s on a broken foot you'll ever see. But Butler is the guy who I would want. He's a guy that I definitely would like to see the Cowboys draft if he's there in the second round. And I think he's the one, personally, that has the biggest potential. I mean, look at Randy Moss, Julio, AJ Green to a certain extent, Moss aforementioned. The big 6'5", tall receivers are the ones we talk about for years if they hit. And Butler has that. He's got some of the best body control I've ever seen from a receiver, in that if you hit him, he's like the old Weeble toys. He just doesn't really fall over. It's pretty impressive. But that's just my opinion on the matter. What do you guys think of the receivers in this class? Are you a Metcalf person? Have I convinced you of Hakeem Butler? Is Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown, somebody that you are interested in? Are you a slot receiver guy? Is Andy Isabella your number one? Let me know in the comments section. I hope you guys learned something from this video. I certainly learned a little bit making it. So subscribe if you enjoy more. This has been Kickoff Commentary, and have a great day.